Hello and welcome back to the American Fan Football Channel, where I am your host, the aforementioned American, and we talk about everything in the Premier League, Champions League, and everything else involving the beautiful game. So today, I thought we would take a similar turn to what we've been discussing, and we're going to continue to talk about the problems at Chelsea. And specifically today, we are going to talk about Chelsea's striker problem. We're going to talk about three players in particular, and those are Kai Havertz, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and Armando Broja. These are three players who have various levels of form, have been given various levels of opportunity at Chelsea so far, but Chelsea are having a serious problem up front, specifically with the number 9 problem. So I just wanted to discuss these three players, how they fit into Graham Potter's system, and what we do with these three players moving forward. So, without further ado, let's get right into the video, and I would appreciate it if you liked, subscribe, put the notification bell. I'm going to be uploading daily to twice daily, so if you like the content that you see, please consider subscribing. And as well, please go check out the videos I posted over the weekend if you missed those. One specifically about Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech. That one was a little controversial, and I think a lot of people didn't like that video. But regardless, you should still check it out and either agree or disagree with me and let me know in the comments why. Okay, so let's get into the video. Let's start with Kai Havertz. This is an interesting player because, as a Chelsea fan, you can't not like him. He scored the Champions League winning goal for Chelsea, scored the Club World Cup winning goal for Chelsea, giving us our second ever Champions League and our first ever Club World Cup. So if Kai Havertz's career ended right now, he would be at least a cult hero, if not a Chelsea legend, just from those 2 goals alone. But where it's interesting is where like a player like Didier Drogba scored in the Champions League final. That was towards the end of his career. Kai Havertz is very much at the beginning of his career and is very young. But since that Champions League final goal, many people thought he would use that as a springboard to kind of just bring his Chelsea career, and people thought he was going to be the next Drogba, the next big game player that would score in big finals. But that hasn't necessarily been the case. I mean, yes, he did score in 2 finals, but he's also been in many finals that he hasn't scored. Chelsea have lost, I think, 4 FA Cup finals in a row, which deeply pains me. We lost the League Cup final without scoring. So yeah, he's clearly not exactly what we thought he would be. And he was definitely a favorite under Tuchel. He was favored over Lukaku for large parts of last season, which I think was probably justified, as in Lukaku had a terrible attitude. But he was favored under Tuchel. He was played up front instead of Timo Werner, instead of Romelu Lukaku, instead of Armando Broja. And I think Kai's underperformance is part of the reason why Thomas Tuchel got sacked, which is unfortunate, and I don't think we should put that directly on the player, because I think he was genuinely trying his best, and I think you can see that in every game that Kai plays in. He always runs off the ball, he's always trying, he's dropping deep, he's trying to get on the ball, trying to do something. But like a lot of players that we see in Chelsea's attack, his final ball, his final finish, his final pass, his final cross is just bad. And I don't know if that's what if that's a cause from the coaching that Thomas Tuchel was doing, or if that was just something that all of our players consistently lacked. But I guess the answer to that will come in, the next couple weeks. Unfortunately, we won't even play a Premier League game until October, so that's kind of annoying. So we can't really gauge too much about the Graham Potter era. But I think once we're a little ways into it, we will be able to retrospectively see if that coaching if the finishing problem at Chelsea and the final third problem at Chelsea was because of the coaching from Thomas Tuchel, or if it was something that the players just consistently lacked. But Kai Havertz gets in scoring chances. He gets in really good positions, but he just can't seem to find the back of the net. And that's all well and fine. He could play like a Bobby Firmino role, like Liverpool have. But we don't have a Mo Salah. We don't have a Sadio Mane. We don't have two wingers that will score 15 to 20 goals this season that allows us to play with a false nine that is creative but doesn't necessarily score all the goals. So that's why I think Kai Havertz needs to be dropped. And that kind of does hurt me to say, because I do really love Kai. I think he's a great player. I think he's like the silkiest player we've had at Chelsea in a while. But being silky, being good on the ball, isn't good enough to play for Chelsea at the striker position. And every time I've seen him play as a number 10 under Tuchel, I've found that he doesn't look quite as good as he does at the false nine position. And that's only because I feel like he can float around in that false nine position where he can't necessarily do that as much at the number 10 position. And he gets picked up more. People are guarding him and tracking his runs better. So I think he does play the best as a false nine. But we can't afford to be playing a false nine. So yeah, that's kind of the problem with Kai Havertz. And now I want to jump into the next player, which is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And now this is an interesting one because we're going to have to give him time. I know he's 34, I believe, and I know he came in to be a ready-made goal scorer. But Aubameyang's been through a lot in these past, couple months. He got his dream move to Barcelona that we had long known that he wanted after his stepping stone at Arsenal. He hit the ground running and scored 13 goals in about 20-odd La Liga appearances, which was really good. But then in the summer, he basically got pushed out of the club. So he had to uproot his family again and move back to London, which obviously that can take some time and adjustment for you. He thought he was coming in to play under his former manager, his manager that knows him and is a good personal friend to him, in Thomas Tuchel. And then after a singular game under Thomas Tuchel gets sacked. And Aubameyang now needs to adapt to an entirely new manager that he was not anticipating playing under. So obviously that's going to rock his confidence. And then on top of that, the man just got robbed. His house got broken into. I think he was threatened. I think his family was threatened. And I'm sorry, but no matter how much money you make or how much of a public figure you are, no person can really handle that well. And that's going to be a traumatizing experience for anyone. So I want to encourage all the Chelsea fans to really give Aubameyang support, and we should really back him. And I think he will come good, and I think he will score goals later in the season. But I think for the time being, I don't think he's really up to taking that starting spot. He doesn't look quite up to the money yet. He looks a little slow. He looks a little distracted. And I think a lot of his off-the-field problems are kind of leading to that. So, with that being said, I also don't think we can be playing Aubameyang right now, because I don't think his head's in the game. And that's nothing to do with him. That's not his fault. And I think later in the season, when he, has some time to work through some of his off-the-field issues, I think he will be good and he will score a lot of goals. I think this season he could score at least 15 goals, and I think that would be a really successful season and bring us something we haven't had in a long time, which is a striker who can actually score goals. But that being said, I just said that we shouldn't be starting Kai Havertz at striker, and I think we shouldn't be starting Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at striker. So that leaves basically only one option to start our next game, and that is the youngster Armando Broja. And I think this is really interesting because he had a decent loan spell at Southampton, scored about 9 goals, which for a young player is a pretty good return for your first ever Premier League campaign. And you can assume that with better players, he would score more goals. So you can assume that if he was given the same amount of minutes that he got at Southampton last season at Chelsea, that he could score more than 9 goals. Now, then that's not to mention that he's made a bunch of cameo appearances so far this season. He's been getting a couple 20 to 30 minute cameos, which I think he has been looking really impressive. I think he has linked up well with a lot of the Chelsea attackers. Specifically, I think he looks really well with Sterling. I think he looks fairly dynamic and fairly quick, which I wasn't really expecting from him because he's a fairly big striker, but he's a lot quicker than I thought he was. And then the other thing I was really impressed with him is he looks much better on the ball than I was expecting. I was expecting someone in the mold of Diego Costa, who was going to be strong, bulky, a little bit of a bully, kind of, just use your body as your best weapon to antagonize and attack the enemy player. I thought that's kind of the striker we were getting. And I think he has that edge that Diego Costa had, which we haven't seen in the striker pretty much since. So why hasn't he played yet? Or why hasn't he played yet? Because he has been given some minutes, but why hasn't he started yet for Chelsea? And that is something that I think led to Thomas Tuchel being sacked, is for the reluctance to play players like Armando Broja and insisting on continuing with Kai Havertz even though he was underperforming. Every time Broja has come on the field for Chelsea, he has almost immediately created a chance, either for himself or for another player. And I think if he was given the entire 90 minutes, I think we would see that he can both create chances and link up play, similar to how Havertz does. But he can also run in behind. He can, use his strength, put his back to goal, and kind of use his body and body defenders. And that's something that Havertz, while he really tries to do, I think he just doesn't always have the ideal body type to be that physical. And he's a pretty skinny and lanky person. So I think Broja really has that physical edge on Havertz. So I think if Graham Potter is listening to this video, which I know obviously he's not, the thing I would tell him is that we have to start Armando Broja at our next game. I don't think we can, especially if our next game is in the Premier League, I believe, in October. So I really think we need to win that game, because since the Liverpool game got delayed, we are going to be 3 points behind. And even though we will have a game in hand, 3 points on the board is much better than having a game in hand. So we're going to be behind, and we were already behind. So we can't afford to keep consisting with players like Havertz that aren't really working. So I think it's time to give the one player that has shown that he deserves a chance, to give him a chance. I think Broja has done everything he possibly could besides score a goal to prove that he's good enough for Chelsea and prove that he should be given a start for Chelsea. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Please let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with any of the sentiments that I've talked about today. If you think that Kai Havertz should start. Please let me know why in the comments. If you think Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang should start, regardless of his off-the-field issues, please let me know in the comments as well. And if you agree with me and you think that Armando Broja needs to start in our next game under Graham Potter, please drop a like, subscribe, and check out all my other videos that I've recorded in the past week. I really would appreciate that. I'm really trying to build out this audience, and any amount of support you can give me, it's just one click of a button, and it would really help me out, and I would really appreciate it. So, yeah, without anything else, have a good day, everyone, and I will see you later in the day for a second video.